afternoon or something. I'm the Tadamasa. I'm going to do a brief little introduction to the Tokugawa historically and in game. So let's just continue. Okay, so I have this divided into two sections. The first section is more pairing into what the Tokugawa is in this like historical context relating to Roblox. They're like extracting various key traits and characteristics of the clan. I'm gonna link them with their real life counterparts. Section 2, which I just have titled Japan in my notes. Awesome. Uh, the section will provide an overview of Japanese society and how it is relevant with their group on this game. As you can see, these are the various points we're going through here. Okay.
I'm lost.
You're lost, dude. Are you lost? Are you lost in game, or you lost like?
I'm lost in game. I've not been in here in like 2 years, man.
I got you. Give me a second. Your name not Spring. I know it's Cry Double, right?
Yeah. Cry double X. Okay. The Tokugawa clan was founded many years ago by same dude today, the same guy. His name's Tokugawa Tora. He's here right now. He's not Tokugawa Tora now, but we'll get into that, why he's not. So initially, the Tokugawa was not called the Tokugawa. It was formed as the Samurai Legion back in 2009, right before Roblox groups even came to be. Back then, you had to send a friend request to a profile. That's how they knew you were a part of the Tokugawa.
It was called the Samurai Legion, so technically, the profile had the name the Samurai Legion.
Yeah. So our shogun found a picture of a samurai in a school book fair and thought it was cool, so we made the first samurai clan in Roblox, and that's the samurai guy, right there. It's like this reenactor in like the Edo period or something. It's like an old ass photo, right? And that picture right down there is one of our rallies in Gekukujo. So I think you see Tor right there. There's Talister. There's Pat. There's whoever the guy is on the right. There's Nanobu.
There's our Torabon. I can identify them all.
Torabon.
Pro Smasher is on the left. Foul is on the left. Behind me to the left, I think is Aliens. That's Pat with the antlers on the right side, and then far right is Talister.
Oh, that.
I think it's Josh. There's Paunchy Man is there. Crack is there.
I'm in the front. I can see.
I think it's Aaron.
Block.
No, that's you. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Anywho, when we are referred to as the first shogunate, it's because like that's just kind of true. We pretty much are. There's more to it, but since we were here first, we were able to call ourselves the first shogunate.
Literally, the story is there's no one else, so I just did it.
There's like some stuff in space that happens, but I wasn't there, so I don't know what samurai were doing in space, man.
I can give a brief look at that. So, at this time, I was really into Star Trek as well, so I decided that I wanted to have like a bridge crew. So I made a ship that was just this big ass spaceship, and then we would like role play as like a Star Trek bridge crew, and that was it. So we were samurai space Romans. It was great.
With some on and offs, like some wars and rivalries and stuff, which we won't really get into today. The Tokugawa Shogunate, which the Legion eventually changed its name to, the Tokugawa, because that's kind of what the samurai were, the Tokugawa. It ended in 2016, I believe, with the character of Tokugawa Tora taking his own life by seppuku harakiri. You probably know what that is, but if you don't, it's just ritual suicide, usually done with another person, but it can be done individually. Also known as retirement.
We call it retiring.
There's a retirement ground near the dojo. A lot of what the Legion had decades ago, such as the families we still possess today. The Shiteno families, for one, all have, or had, in some cases, direct roots more or less to their origin way back when. Same with the dojo that you're in right now. Now, we all know what happened in early 2020. All that resurfacing boredom caused everyone to make a great, grandiose return to community led and developed by Tora known as Gekukujo, which was centered around the Sengoku period of Japan. Okay, so next section. Admittedly, I don't know a lot about this era of Japan, but this will go over it. So first thing we'll note is the name. Gekkukujo is a Japanese proverb which loosely translates to the lower rules the higher or the weak overcome the strong. This is more often assigned to the Meiji era of Japan. If you go on the small Wikipedia page of Gekkukujo, you'll see members of the February 26th incident, which is these dudes right over here. That's like the modern application of Gekkukujo. But it still applies to Japanese politics around this time. And I believe Gekkukujo actually came, like the phrase came from the Chinese, which, if you know anything about the Chinese, they love doing that overthrowing people thing.
The nature of Gecko Kujo is essentially because the entire country was actively killing each other. All these lesser lords and such were suddenly able to more or less do what they wanted. And so they would, betray their overlord and be like, you know what, fuck it, we're taking your castle because you're away fighting a war. So the weak would very literally overcome the strong. And this is the case with, the Oda, for instance, who were about to get bodied by the Imagawa clan, and then they bodied them instead. And then they bodied the Takeda, and then they take over the country. So it's a very violent period of time in which everybody is killing each other.
The Heian period, which was 794 to 1185 AD, marked the last time until the 1860s where the imperial court, also known as the Yamato clan, held considerable power. Held considerable power within the realm of Japan. The politics and efficiency of the government were impressive, especially for its time, being one of the most advanced institutions in the world at the time, in my opinion. If you look at, I didn't go into it today, but if you look at the how they have it structured with the chancellor and all of that, the Dojo, Daijin and stuff, all that's pretty interesting to look at, how they're able to do that for way back when, and they kept it going up until 1868, right? Something like that.
Well, I mean, the imperial government was ruling up until the end of World War II. So the imperial family, Japanese imperial government, is the oldest and longest lasting.
I'm gonna go into that.
Yeah, I thought you already did.
So the Heian period was a relative time of peace, with the Yamato clan being the undefied rulers of the realm, the rule justified from heaven itself, which we'll get into that a bit later. Literature and art flourished with many recognized forms of Japanese literature, including the predecessors of haiku, which, side note, haiku became a thing during the Edo period. But the predecessor of haiku was the hako, having been established during this time. It was also around then when Japan was slowly starting to bitterly separate itself from the Sinosphere.
Which means China.
Yes, the Sinosphere, China, Chinese influence, Chinese culture.
Sinosphere, I think is supposed
to be. Sino. Yeah, I think it's Sinosphere. Oops.
Close enough.
The most notable work to come from the Heian period is the legendary epic The Tale of Genji, also known as Genji Monogatari. Monogatari is another form of literature, but we can do all the literature later, like another day or something. That could be a future lesson. The Genji Monogatari was written by the Princess Murasaki Shibiku, covering over 1,000 pages of the court drama at the time and a bunch of romance. People say it takes months of active reading to finish. I've only read an excerpt of it that was in a book I have, and I don't even know what was going on because it was like 5 pages out of over 1,000. So all this Heian period stuff was fun, but it was too peaceful. So the Japanese, despite their efforts of not being Chinese, did something very Chinese, and they just started killing each other. Already by the late Heian period, the imperial court was suffering from a corrupt bureaucracy that tried to stretch itself too far and was now quickly losing power. Already the current emperors had limited authority. There was a trend where emperors that abdicated retained massive influence and ruled from the background, interfering in the government to an extent where they were working against the reigning emperor. This is referred to as cloistered rule. What's important to note here is where the clans first came to be. You heard me refer to the Yamato clan, but that was just the first. The actual system comes from the Genpai Tokitsu, which I have right there, and the kanji, as you can see, that's basically like Chinese. How these four clans came to be is a little more complex, often involving imperial members who couldn't succeed, marriages, or family members from the aforementioned cock-blocking emperors of the cloistered rule. These clans, at the end of the day, were still related to the imperial family, and in effect, a subsidiary or cadet branch of the Yamato clan. These four clans were soon at each other's throats. We have the Minamoto, the Taira, the Fujiwara, and the Tachibana. I don't know why I can like never find transparent images for these two clans. Like I've tried to do it before, but I just can't. So around this time, the the direct rule from the imperial court was waning because a lot of the local administrative stuff was becoming decentralized to these four clans here, and then they had their own rivalry, which culminated in the Genpei War, and that saw the ending of the Heian period. Imperial rule was in a frenzy, and the Minamoto and Taira clans became engulfed in a brutal civil war, vying for power over the imperial court. The actual emperor was powerless to assert the authority of the Yamato clan, and soon the victor of the Genpei War, which was the Minamoto clan, asserted its power over the court. The headquarters was in Kyoto, which at this time is named Heian-kyo, which is where the Heian period gets its name. But its headquarters was in Kamakura. Thus, the Kamakura shogunate was born. So it's important to note that the first shogunate was the Minamoto clan. That will come to be important later. So the Kamakura shogunate survived through the Mongol invasions, but it was eventually overthrown. It's a little more to get into, but we won't do that today. Like I'm not going very in depth into these things. So now we have that background out of the way, and we'll skip to its successor, the Ashikaga shogunate, also known as Muromachi, which bore the Muromachi era. Where the Kamakura were strong, the Ashikaga were quickly seen to be weak, not able to govern the domain of Japan, and the emperor was still doing fuck all in Kyoto, just doing random shit. The start of these clans vying for power happened to be the Sengoku period. The Wars of Unification, which the Tokugawa triumphed, became to be the Azuchi Momoyama period. These are the most known and famous periods of Japan, where you all know those samurai from History of the Matsudaira. Did I really not put anything there? Oh. Okay. Whatever. Don't worry. Yeah, the slides are a little barren. That's okay. Don't worry. If I do this again, I'll fix that up. Just use your imagination, guys.
So he
Okay,
has a
so-
dad named Matsudaira Matsudaira Yasuchika, and he's going to be on the left there, but you can't see him.
I probably should have put the family line. That's actually a good idea.
Yeah, that would be a
So
good idea.
I'm sure Tora knows a bit more about the Matsudaira and everything, and when I'm done, he might share some more information. But the Matsudaira clan was based around the region of Mikawa, based in the town of Okazaki. It was originally a weak and small clan. How it came to be, nobody really knows, but we'll get into that in a bit. Spoiler alert, the founder might have been a poor Buddhist monk who didn't really do anything. So they're poor and weak. So here comes this guy called Matsudaira Takechiyo. So he was a young member of this clan, and he had his 5th birthday, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty nice. Then he got abducted.
He got sold in a way, ransomed.
Yeah, but he got ransomed by the Oda, who captured him, and then the Imagawa rescued him, and then they installed Takechiyo, who I think was a teenager by then, after being rescued, and he became the leader of the Matsudaira. And then in exchange, the Matsudaira were treated as vassals under the Imagawa, and he continued to fight against the Oda during this time. And then, during those wars with the Oda, a certain man called Oda Nobunaga, who was pretty intelligent, came to inherit the Oda clan. He made quick use of Imagawa Yoshimoto. I think that's his name, right? Something like that.
Yes.
The daimyo of Imagawa, and killed him in battle. So Takechiyo, which I think he used the name Motoyasu now. He changed his name a lot. I'm not sure why, but
It was pretty
Takechiyo.
common to change your name when you like did
Yeah.
certain things.
So Matsudaira Takechiyo, after his lord dying and like all of his dudes dying, he decided to flee to the Pure Land Buddhist temple of Daijuji, which is right outside of Okazaki, and he was about to commit suicide. But then a priest talked him out of it, and he was like, "No, young man, you got shit to do. My life a movie." And so he returned home, and he decided to ally with the Oda clan and secure independence of the Matsudaira. Which, by the way, we did have Daijuji. Well, we used to have a Daijuji temple operating.
We still technically do, but we don't have an
Yeah.
abbot for it right now. So
Yeah, we don't like have people doing it, and if we do restart it, it'd be on the low key sort of thing. But that is something we can do if you guys are into Buddhism. If anybody is.
Yeah. If anybody wants to head up a Buddhist temple, let me know.
With Takechiyo's new ally, he unified the province of Mikawa through conquest and finally changed his name to Tokugawa Ieyasu.
And why did he do that?
I'm going to get to that in a minute.
Okay, I figured. I was segueing you into it.
Ieyasu continued on his campaign to unify Japan alongside the Oda, defeating the Takeda and Sanada, culminating with... Wait... Not yet. He doesn't become shogun yet. A samurai known as Toyotomi Hideyoshi, another ally of the Oda, kind of like a vassal. He unified the country following Nobunaga's death in battle, accepting the Tokugawa as his vassals. Toyotomi Hideyoshi did not become shogun. Instead, all he did is, for some reason, he tried to invade Korea, and then he got his ass beat by the Chinese. That was weird. And then he got old, and then he died. But before he died, he appointed Ieyasu to a position of power. He was one of the 5 elders. So it's important to note that Hideyoshi wasn't actually shogun. He was chancellor, Dojo Daijin, as I mentioned before, and he held power in the Imperial Court, which gave him the leverage that he had, but he did not have that position of shogun that the Kamakura and Ashikaga had. Same thing with Oda Nobunaga. Like, why not? Well, they didn't have it in them. They lacked imperial descent. Ieyasu claims to be descended from the Minamoto clan, if you remember that. In fact, in all legal terms, he claimed to be Minamoto no Ieyasu. That's the reason why he changed his name to Tokugawa, because with that, he fabricated a lineage to the Minamoto clan. Historians think that he was just bullshitting about this whole Minamoto thing. And matter of fact, the Imperial Court did too. The Imperial Court didn't trust him, and they're like, dude, you're just capping. You're lying. That's bullshit. And then, like, they argued a bit, and then they're like, all right, fine. You're descended, I guess.
Bro essentially came up with a scroll that he found somewhere. He's like, whoa, oh my god, look, it says I'm Tokugawa, and it says these guys are related? Oh my god.
Yeah, he had a family lineage, which basically put him with, like, Emperor was at the top and him was at the bottom. And it was like, yo, this is real, bro. Trust. So the Toyotomi and Oda lacked that whole imperial background to cement themselves as shogun, which is something important to notice too. That even though the imperial court was so in the background and not really doing anything, to be shogun, you still had to be accepted by.
They provide legitimacy.
Court. Yeah, pretty much.
So the thing with why this is very important is because Hideyoshi was, like that said, didn't have imperial lineage. He was a peasant in every capacity. But he became the most powerful man in the country through Gekko Kujo. Again, through this concept of being able to, like, literally just, like, stab the fuck out of people in the back. And, you know, good politics. And he became the Kenpaku, I think was the title of the country.
Yeah,
and
Kenpaku,
same thing with Oda. Oda was also, like, a very low-level member of the samurai class. Or I don't know if he was a peasant or not, I don't remember. He definitely wasn't related to Seiwa Genji, though. But he also became one of the most powerful men in the country through just sheer force. Very important.
Yes. Also, I didn't include that, but he did say Seiwa Genji. Seiwa Genji is the line of, I believe it was one of the princes of an emperor back then, of Seiwa Minamoto. And that Genji, that's the line that a lot of clans, like the Tokugawa and some more we'll get into in a bit, claim lineage too. So for the same reason as the Toyotomi and Oda, like the Chosokawa clan, for example, because they were foreigners, they were actually like Korean. They had Korean ancestry. They weren't really Japanese. They could not become shogun. So if you play them in Shogun 2 and they become shogun, well, that's an inaccuracy. That can happen. So Ieyasu obliterated the rest of his opposition, and with his allies, which was known as the Eastern Army, at the Battle of Sekigahara on October 21st, 1600, he just killed everybody. And after that, he was proclaimed shogun of Japan, and he moved his government to Edo,
which is today Tokyo.
Mm-hmm. The clans of the Western Army, which rallied against him, were punished in the government that was soon to come. Boom.
Here it is.
Hey.
The Boshin War.
Edo period and Bakumatsu. The Edo Bakufu, which, curiously enough, referred to itself as Kogi, adopted a very strict, authoritarian, and Confucian approach to governance, which we'll get into in a little minute. Toyotomi Hideyoshi confiscated swords and weapons, and Ieyasu followed up on that, also confiscating weapons as well, and practically banning any sort of like active military deployment of any samurai.
He also destroyed fuck tons of castles and literally every bridge in the country. Every bridge in the country was destroyed, so you had to cross it by river, so to slow down your militaries. It's very funny.
I tried looking into, side note, I tried looking into like some of the Honda buildings and castles, and there was like, it was destroyed in 1603 by Tokugawa. Yeah, I assume it's like, oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah. Japan used to have like probably more castles in it than Europe did, just because they made castles really quickly and they just built them on top of hills. But during the Tokugawa government, they literally destroyed like 90% of the fucking things, so they could consolidate power.
Additionally, clan leaders were assigned to domains outside of their ancestral homelands. The Honda, for example, got sent all the way to the west in Himeji, which is near Kyoto. And the domains themselves were kind of secular family association. So previously it's like, oh, the Tokugawa, those are the Mikawa guys. But now anybody can become the daimyo of Mikawa.
Lawman, stop streaming your building while we're in the middle of a lesson here.
Another thing is that these lords had to spend some time of the year living in Edo. And it seemed that the Tokugawa learned a lesson of their own rise, from poor vassal to shogun. They enforced very strict classism, and they practically eliminated social mobility. If you were born a farmer, you're just a farmer. If you're a merchant, like, everybody hated you. I think merchants were, like, very low in the social structure.
They were the lowest.
Yeah. Yeah. Another
That's the idea is you
thing,
don't make anything, you just extract things. So, like, you're a shithead.
Another interesting thing is that every member of a family, commoner or aristocrat, they didn't really have an aristocracy, but that would be the samurai clans, they had to register themselves with a Buddhist temple that was near their town, which that kind of led to a very early census system. And, obviously it became easier to tax people if you had all their names, where they lived and what they did, and you saw them like every weekend at the Buddhist like ritual thing. Despite being so Confucian, the nature of the Tokugawa government almost prompted resistance from some of the more like wealthier individuals that were like descended from the samurai, but obviously not samurai because they're not fighting. But more of these people that had nothing to do became a little angry. One of these first signs of resistance would be the Mitogaku school, which was founded by the Baron Tokugawa Mitsukuni, right there. Actually, I don't even know if his rank was Baron. I think I just put that there because Baron.
Oh, I think Baron was his name. Like, yeah, Baron. It's Baron. It's literally him.
I thought that was his title. Shit.
Oops. No.
Whatever.
We had a guy named Baron in our clan, and he was Sakai Mitsukuni / Tokugawa Mitsukuni.
The Japanese identity from a nativist Japanese first principle, trying to separate it from its early Chinese influences.
It's not the first time this has happened either.
Was called Kokugaku, also known as nativist studies, which helped to lay out the foundations for the imminent Meiji Revolution and present-day application on how the Japanese view themselves. If you want to know more about that, I do suggest you look into some of the famous men here, such as Motori Norinaga, Kamo no Mabuchi, Hirata Asutane, Kado no Azumamaro. And if you want like any of those names like written out, because obviously I did do it here, then yeah, just let me know. Then I will. Collectively, those men were referred to as the four great men of Kokugaku. The idea of Kokutai also developed from this, which was pretty much Meiji's justification to rule. To avoid bombarding you with all that now, I'll go and say that's a lesson for the future. Most well known to the Edo period is the isolationist policy that the Tokugawa adapted. Edo became very centralized, much like its government, and at a certain time became the most populated city in the world. I think, like, second to that, I think was Constantinople, and then, like, Shanghai or something. But yeah, Edo did become the most populated city in the world at a time. All that peace shattered when the technologically superior Westerners, like America, the Perry expedition, pretty sure everybody knows, they arrived in Japan, and a period of intense instability became soon rampant. This is referred to as the Boshin War or the Meiji Restoration. The young Emperor Meiji, with the help of various small domains, Gekukuja principle again, by the way, who spent time studying in the West, such as Britain, successfully overthrew the Edo shogunate. And it wasn't really an overthrowing because the Tokugawa didn't offer much resistance. The restoration happened over a long time, including things like kidnappings, assassinations, and terrorism, as opposed to the decisive victory at Sekigahara. The Tokugawa withered away. The shogun at the time, Tokugawa Yoshinobu, was not punished, however. He just retired and hid away from the public. Many of the old samurai clans that were governing the provinces during the Edo period were elevated to the role of kazoku, or peerage, modeled after similar British systems. This replaced both the daimyo structure of Japan as well as the millennia-long imperial court. So the roles of kuge, daijin, those were gone after a very long time. Something interesting is Yoshinobu's adopted son and heir to the clan, Tokugawa Iesato. He was actually the president of the Kazoku for 30 years. I think it was 1903 to 1933. He was Japan's leading advocate for parliamentary democracy, centered around the European Western line. And it wasn't until those later years where the government had to increasingly rely on the military for support among social and economic instability, where the strength of Japanese democracy waned. He died in 1940, and well, I mean, you guys know what happened after 1940. What's 1940 plus 1? 1941. What happened in 1941?
No.
No, that was a little bit longer. Pearl Harbor.
You're close.
During American occupation, the peerage system was abolished, and centuries of Tokugawa rule and power finally fell into irrelevancy. It definitely took a while. So, moving on, we're going to do a brief talk about the social structure of Japan at this time. I know Tora did a lesson on this, so he could probably speak more at the end. I can't remember if it was Sengoku or Edo he did it at. I'm guessing it was the Edo period.
I did it for both.
Oh, okay, great. So, you can correct me if I made any brash assumptions here. So, the Sengoku period did not boast armies completely comprised of samurai, as you know, some people may expect, but no. Samurai were often like princes or young noblemen of these clans, and those are valuable because they weren't just gonna send their sons to die in the front lines. Or if you were Uziki Kenshin, you were a woman. And they were heavily trained, these young boys. Thus, they often served as commanders, not frontline soldiers. Most battles were comprised of levy commoner conscripts known as ashigaru. They also fought more with spears during this time, especially as you got closer in years to like Sekigahara, as they were using European firearms a lot. So there were less like katana, sword stuff, and more like pike and shot, especially with Oda Nobunaga. That was his thing, like the pike and the gun.
So traditionally speaking, even from like long before this time period, during like the invasion of the Mongols and shit, the katana, which is not a very common weapon in general, was more commonly with see a samurai with what is called a tachi, which is a cavalry sit sword essentially. But even then, the sword has never been the primary weapon of the samurai. The primary weapon of the samurai has almost always been the bow, the yumi. At a certain point during the Edo period, it becomes more common for samurai to start using guns and spears and such, like Kazat said. But funnily enough, the weapon everybody knows samurai for is not the weapon they would use like 90% of the time. They'd be using anything else because spears are literally just better than swords in almost every way. And yumi are also really good because if you can shoot a motherfucker before he gets to you, I mean, you don't need the sword, do you? But yes, they essentially start breaking down these systems of samurai, because samurai used to be what fought in battlefields back in the day with your like retinues of dudes, and they started hiring professional conscripts, like as that said, which were called ashigaru, which this was a big deal and caused a lot of issues.
Something the imperial court actually did during this time in the Muromachi period had to do with titles and land. So it wasn't like completely anarchy out there and people weren't just like fighting. It wasn't like warband or anything, right? And even Ieyasu, for example, he needed to get certified for rule over a region, and the emperor had to appoint him. And I don't think the emperor was very happy with Ieyasu after his, you know, his fabrication thing. Each province had already been listed out many years before any of this chaos started, and the chaos itself was fought over those titles. The lesser versions of these were referred to as daimyo or sometimes shugo. These were lords over a land, so you're going to hear us talk about daimyo a lot. And I believe the etymology of daimyo just means rural land or something. It means like rules land.
A daimyo is essentially just a lord that is very powerful. Not every single lord of the clan is a daimyo. It was like an honorific that was usually given to dudes that were like very fucking strong. One of the things that you saw happen in RJ a lot, because this is at the end of the day, this lesson is about the real history and also the Roblox history. Everybody calls themselves a daimyo because nobody fucking knows the difference. That's not accurate. The vast majority of people in these spaces that have like, 3 dudes that are following them would be just lords. That's all they are. They're a lord. Somebody like us that has like, 20 dudes and a bunch of clans and following and stuff would be daimyo. It's just an honorific for like if you're powerful or not powerful.
Yes, so Sakakibara Tadamoto is the daimyo of the Sakakibara clan, and Tor is the daimyo of the Tokugawa, but he's also the shogun of the Tokugawa, something like that, right?
Roughly.
So,
They're not like mutually exclusive or anything like that, but like
no.
you wouldn't really call the shogun a daimyo. Context.
No. If you did, you'd probably get your head chopped off. That's insulting.
Well, maybe. I don't know about that actually.
So in the Edo period, things were a little different. Those who were loyal to the Tokugawa before their rise to victory, likely being vassals beforehand, were known as the Fudai daimyo. Conversely, the Tozama, which means outsider daimyo, were those who were not previously allied with the Tokugawa. Their discrimination led to some of the instability during the Meiji Restoration. Which,
there's a third one as well.
I don't think a single Tozama clan aided the shogunate. It was mostly the relatives of the Tokugawa, such as a branch of the Machidara and Aizu.
Which would have been made up their own class called the Shinpan daimyo, which are clans that are directly related to the Tokugawa.
Yeah.
So you have Fudai, Tozama, and Shinpan.
Shinpan's, yeah, that's Shinpan's the other one, yeah. Now, if you fought against Ieyasu during Sakakihara, like the Western Army, do you remember when I said they were punished? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they just like tossed out the right to rule and were either vassalized or made into commoners. So a lot of those clans, like the Shimazu, they were just poof, they're just gone pretty much.
In It was no. The Tozama, they are the Tozama. If you didn't side with Ieyasu, if you like essentially bent the knee after the fact, you got stuck with a shitty job, and like now you get to live, but you get a shitty job. Like Ieyasu was very careful not to like eradicate the entire country because he didn't want to.
Well, he didn't eradicate. That's what I mean. They were like.
Yeah, but he knew that if he took away all their shit forever, that they would just cause problems for him again in the future. So he essentially gave them back their land and said, like, stay here and don't do anything ever. And they're like, okay, bro. And they didn't until like 1800. That's more or less what happens to the Tozama daimyo. The Feudai daimyo gets sent out to rule very specific areas that are like very important, like Okazaki or what is the other one? Osaka. These like big castles and stuff along the post roads that I also built specifically to control the country. They all get sent there, and like that's where the Shinpan to go as well. Though many of the Shinpan daimyo, which again are Tokugawa's relatives, get stuck in these like very low powerful positions because the Ieyasu or the primary dynasty of the Tokugawa don't want their other dynastic areas to try and overthrow them. That's still a realistic possibility. So you get like Aizu Matsudaira, for instance, which is up in the north of the country doing fucking nothing. But like they're up there so they can't cause issues down for the Tokugawa in the south, essentially. Keep your enemies close, keep your friends far away in case they're not actually friends, you know?
The Tokugawa here also has rules called koku. That roughly correlates with wealth. It's not how much money you physically have, but it's more so like a calculation or net worth of your holdings. Each class of koku represents the population and significance of the holding. So, like, if a daimyo had 100,000 koku, that would be believed to represent the potential to feed 100,000 people, and by extent, all the trade and such that happens there. If we're being honest, I don't think that was really the best system.
It was a rough representative of how many people your province could feed, essentially.
Yeah.
I'm going to send a link in chat real fast. I'll just post it in Plan General. This website has a lot of very, very good information when it comes to like Japanese provinces and castles. It can tell you the values of these holdings at the time. For instance, I can't actually find it right now, but there's a list where it just shows all the koku values, and essentially you can see like what Edo was worth versus like Okazaki or Kyoto, and it's cool to see that you get Edo that's worth like fucking 1 million koku or some shit like that, and then you get shitty Fuckistan, which is worth like 10,000. It's just cool. And you can see people like, Honda Tadakuni, which is Clay, had like 200,000 koku. Obviously, in our clan, he doesn't because we don't want to have that many fucking rolls. But that's a great link if any of you want to learn about castles and shit.
The Shitenno. The 4 heavenly kings, Shitenno, were Ieyasu's forefront generals from the unification of Mikawa to the Battle of Sekigahara.
These are just top guys.
I put an extra EK in there. Sekigahara, not Segeki. They are as follows. Honda Tadakatsu, who's pictured. Obviously, I had to put in there. Inamasa, Sakakibara, Yasumasa, and Sakai Tadatsugu. You can see their families here. Honda, Sakai, Sakakibara. The actual term of Shitenno comes from Buddhism, which I believe when Buddhism got adapted into like the Chinese sort of stuff, that's where that comes from. And in Japan, it was adopted to the 4 cardinal directions, which are seen outside the dojo. I know the Minamoto clans also had their own Shitenno stuff going on. You'll notice that like my Discord username has Honda in front of it. If you look around you, they're all there. Sakakibara, Sakai, and the cadet families, which is Mizuki and such.
There were other families that served Tokugawa at this time that were very important, but these were like the 4 big ones that had tons of power and tons of land. Okubo, for instance, was also an actual family at the time, and they were also instrumental in this time period and become even more important during the Boshin War.
To put it briefly, the Shitenno clans were at the center of the Tokugawa family dynamics. Historically, they were rewarded for their loyalty and service to Ieyasu, becoming the most powerful and wealthy feudai daimyo in the early shogunate. I know for certain that the Honda, as well as the Okubo and E, claim descent from the Fujiwara clans. The Sakai and Sakakibara claim descent from the Minamoto through the same branch the Tokugawa do, which is the Saiwa Genji. You can see this justification and reverence for imperial ancestry was just regular practice, even for clans that knew they were never going to be shogun.
You have to remember that the emperor is literally in the Japanese culture looked at as a god. So even if they don't have actual legitimate power, if you say, "Yeah, I'm related to God," people are like, "Oh, okay, sick."
Well,
So it matters.
God is kind of
Well,
not. It's
Kami.
not really, not even kami. It's like a descendant of the kami, which is more so. Uh-oh. Can you kick me from VC real quick? Something.
Yeah, hold on. Give us a moment while we get through our technical difficulties.
How long is this?
Thank you. I see. Is that Ryan? I can't tell. These people change.
Yeah, it is Ryan. It is Ryan.
profiles too much.
Hello.
Okay. Hello.
You're being judged intensely by Ryan.
Well, I don't know that much.
I'm like
about,
hyperventilating right now.
He's not. He's not.
I'm good.
He's trolling.
samurai stuff. TBH.
No, you're doing good, dude. This is a good lesson.
Okay.
You're going over a lot of shit.
So I figured out that I didn't make slides for the second section.
Oh,
As you could tell, the slideshow part wasn't really what I put my effort into. Don't worry about it, though. Don't worry about it.
just look at me instead.
Yeah, look at him in game. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna look at Oh, you guys are in the main hall of the dojo, is it?
Yes, sir. Is it an important
So
lesson?
that's the shinden. Yeah, I don't think you're supposed. Are you supposed to look at the shinden? I can't remember.
No, yeah, you are. You are. It's fine.
Okay. So how do you say it? Sino? Sino?
Sino.
Sino? Oh, Sino, that's right. Okay. The Sinosphere refers to various cultures that branched off from the Han civilization in the central plains of China, including the Japanese as well as the Koreans, and I believe like some of the Vietnamese too. It's similar to the Romans in modern Europe. China's kind of like if Roman civilization never collapsed.
Well, it
We-
collapses
we
a
all
lot.
spoke
It just didn't
Latin
go away.
Yeah. They were known for collapsing, actually. You know, with all the dynasties and stuff. So the people that ventured to Japan, possibly from southern Korea or eastern China, came to be known as the Yayoi. Yayoi? Yayoi. I really hate saying that word.
Yeah.
Yayoi people. The Jomon, however, were hunter-gatherer populations already present in Japan. Under the leadership of the Yamato clan, the Yayoi, I hate that word, were unified and they conquered much of Japan at that point. Conquered, loosely, because we don't really know what was going on over there. There's like maps where they don't have all of it, but it's like whatever.
The long story short of it is the Yamato are referred to as the Yamato polity. And not that I want to say this in a crude way, but this is kind of what happens. They kind of hijack Shinto as a concept and say like, oh, hey, we're the descendants of the kami and stuff like that. And they use that as a source of legitimacy as they take over more and more of the country. And when they go to other large, powerful lords, like other people in the country that still control large swaths of land that are opposed to them, they essentially go, hey, we can legitimize you as well, and you can also be descended from the kami, but you have to fall in line behind the Yamato polity. And that's essentially how the imperial family and the imperial dynasty, the Yamato, take over the country. It's like through these means of like integration through Shinto.
Yeah, I don't want to put my Reddit atheist hat on, but that is just kind of how Shintoism developed, was to justify the rule of the imperial family. That is how a lot of other religions developed too. But it's important to note that
State and religion go hand in hand very frequently.
another thing about Shintoism in the Jomon is that when I was reading the Nihonki, the Nihon Shoki, the author let a pretty important note, a really interesting note on the Jomon and their early impression on early Shintoism. So Shintoism isn't shamanistic, but some of the etymology behind the very, very early deities suggests that at a time, though there's like not much proof, these kami were worshipped upon poles. It's like some of their names is like guy with wind on pole or something. So, shamanistic totem poles. I know when you hear me talking about Shintoism and poles, you might think I'm going in a different direction, but not today, okay? So it's believed that some of the early deities, like way back when, right when Shintoism wasn't even a thing when they were writing it, became borrowed from the native Jomon people. Even though most of it was Chinese, a lot of the names are just Chinese, but there's a little hints of Jomon background there. So now I'm going into more of the things you people probably know. In case you don't, Japan is made up of several islands: Honshu, Kyushu, and Shikoku. Hokkaido and Okinawa were really only adopted into Japan after the Meiji period, but Hokkaido especially, which are home to the native Ainu, became under the Japanese sphere of influence, so to say, as the Japanese were to the Chinese at once. Japan is named Nihon or Nippon, which roughly translates to land of the rising sun or origin of the sun. The word Japan actually comes from Marco Polo, who I think he misheard it from a Chinese person, which that happens a lot, actually, just people mishearing stuff. So now, let us talk about the emperor system. So you've heard me talk about this Yamato clan for a while, and what I'm referring to is an imperial house of Japan, where the emperors belong to. Japan's lineage to the Yamato clan has largely been unbroken for millennia. It's changed like a couple branches, like this dude didn't have an heir, so it became his brother, stuff like that. But if you recall me extolling his bureaucracy earlier, like I can think that it's probably second to the Vatican in being the oldest institution of the world. If you choose to believe that it was founded in 660 BCE, then you could say it's the oldest, but that's kind of cap. So where China had dynasties being replaced every so often, the imperial lineage remained intact and relatively stable. Of course, at times they're like considered too holy to govern, but we've already covered all those shoguns and such. I'll keep it a little brief, which is a little bit of a challenge for me on this topic. I know more about this than like modern times and samurai shit. Um, in modern times, the concept of a Japanese nation has largely blended with the emperor. There's a saying that's called Yamato Damashi, which does translate to Japanese spirit, and that was used a lot during World War II. In fact, a lot of the times when another name for Japan that's used a lot of the time isn't Nippon or Nihon, it's Yamato, which is interesting. That's like, saying, oh, I'm from the country of Windsor when referring to Great Britain. That's like, what? People don't do that, but the Japanese do sometimes. The emperor is a line descended from Amaterasu, the daughter of Izanagi, who should rule the sun. Her brother, Tsukuyomi, rules the moon and darkness, and sadly does not own an entire country. I think Tsukuyomi used to be a girl, but then they're like, actually, a daughter and brother makes sense, so they did that instead. I don't know. They like kind of just changed people's genders in Japanese religion, or like, I don't know. It's kind of strange. I think she used to be a girl. Dude, I don't know what's happened. Like, they used to draw Tsukiyomi as a girl, but like they looked into it and like the spelling denotes a man, so like, oh, maybe they're actually brothers. I don't know. Um, the the imperial family was established by the mythical Emperor Jinmu on 660 BC. Didn't you hear me talking about Usugi Kenshin, who was like a girl who was cosplaying as a dude, so she didn't get her head chopped off? The current emperor is Naruhito. In the modern day, the emperor performs large religious duties like the Daijosai, I think it's called. For more information regarding Shintoism, head on over to our shrine service. And the Japanese language is modeled after Chinese. Those Chinese characters, slightly modified, are known as kanji. A simplified alphabet known as hiragana surface. A third alphabet, katakana, which are largely foreign loanwords and onomatopoeias, also emerged. All three alphabets are used, including Romaji, which is the Romanized alphabets. if you want to know more about that, there's a thread in the Sakeden forum. Besides that, that's all I have covered for today. Tokugawa Tori, do you have anything else to add?
No, not really. I think we probably covered a lot. A lot of intel. We don't want to do too much, or else people won't remember literally anything. Though I imagine
Yeah,
we've
I
already forgotten a
didn't
lot of
go
stuff
very
as
deep
is.
into everything.
Yeah. Is that it for your lesson? Are we done?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So, firstly, thank Kazats. Kazats does try to put a lot of effort into the research and stuff for this. Obviously, I understand for all of you